You know, going through this stuff about gang stalking, I gotta say, it's been pretty intense. This document, it lays out this like really disturbing pattern of behavior, you
Yeah.
know? And it's all aimed at just destabilizing a person. And the level of detail, it's incredibly unsettling.
Yeah, it really is. It's quite comprehensive. Like
Yeah.
it suggests this like systematized approach to intrusion and manipulation,
Yeah.
What really struck me is how they blend these traditional methods with these like modern methods, and it's effective and unsettling.
Great. Let's get into these home invasion tactics because it's clear this goes way beyond just someone's house, right? They're talking about perpetrators gaining access to any location where the victim should feel safe, home, work, even their car.
Yeah, absolutely. They talk about copied keys and using technology to get past security systems,
Hmm.
like a blend of old school and new sophisticated techniques. It really raises the question,
Yeah.
who's behind this and what kind of resources do they have access to?
It's chilling. Having someone have that level of access to your personal spaces, and it's not just about getting in, it's what they do once they're inside. They talk about personal items, like a toothbrush being moved between the victim's home and the homes of like their friends or family.
Yeah, that detail. It's really disturbing. It's not about stealing something valuable. It's about creating this sense of violation and confusion. Like, imagine finding your toothbrush in your friend's bathroom. You start questioning your own memory, your sanity.
Oh, absolutely. It seems like the goal is to make the victim doubt their own perceptions. And then they talk about theft and manipulation. It goes beyond just taking things. They focus on the theft of items with emotional significance, like favorite clothing or important belongings.
Yeah. It speaks to a desire for control, power. It's not about material possessions. It's about taking away things that hold meaning for the victim. It undermines their sense of self and security.
It's really unnerving because the theft isn't always permanent, right? They describe small items like phones or headphones going missing for a few hours, and then they reappear exactly where they were before.
Right.
It's like a mind game to make the victim question their grip on reality.
It is. It is a classic gaslighting
Yeah.
tactic, creating this sense of doubt and uncertainty. And then they talk about the theft of personal notes, journals, even digital files. It goes way beyond inconvenience. It's about invading someone's privacy, their sense of self.
Then they get into something they call environmental manipulation, where perpetrators deliberately change the victim's environment just to create this unsettling atmosphere, like moving furniture, leaving doors ajar, subtle changes designed to make the victim feel like something is off.
Right. Again, it reinforces the idea of gaslighting,
Yeah.
making the victim question their own reality, wonder if they're imagining things. It's incredibly destabilizing.
There's one detail that got me. They mention hidden devices that emit sounds every few minutes. It's like this calculated effort to disrupt and unsettle.
Yeah, it's a really insidious tactic. It's not a loud, overt threat. It's this persistent, low-level harassment that can really erode someone's peace of mind over time. Just a constant drip of anxiety, making it difficult to relax or feel safe in your own space.
And then there's the damage to insulation, like they're trying to amplify external noise and intrusion.
It all ties back into this theme of blurring the lines between the victim's personal space and the outside world, make them feel constantly exposed, vulnerable.
It's incredibly disturbing to think that someone could be subjected to this level of intrusion and manipulation. And it's even more disturbing to consider the psychological impact it must have.
And they point out that these intrusions, they often happen at vulnerable moments, like when the victim is sleeping or showering.
That's what's so scary, right? You're supposed to feel safe and relaxed, and that's when they decide to do it. Makes the fear and anxiety so much worse.
It really suggests like a deep understanding of psychology,
Mhm.
a willingness to exploit those vulnerabilities. They're not just trying to scare the victim, they want to break them down mentally, psychologically.
Yeah. Reading through all this, it's so clear these tactics are designed to have a huge psychological impact. Can you talk more about the specific effects this kind of harassment might have, on a person's mental and emotional well-being?
Well, imagine living under constant surveillance,
Yeah.
right? Never knowing when or where these intrusions will happen. The source material mentions victims experience heightened anxiety, paranoia, this pervasive sense of fear. It can lead to sleep problems, trouble concentrating, and just this overall erosion of trust in other people.
It's like a slow drip, drip, drip torture, like
Yeah,
psychologically.
exactly. And what's really hard is that the nature of this harassment, it makes it so difficult to prove. Often there's no physical evidence, so victims might get dismissed as paranoid or delusional.
That's so sad to be going through something so disturbing and then to have your concerns just totally blown off by other people. It must be incredibly isolating.
It is. It's like gaslighting. But on a grand scale, the victim is made to question their own sanity, which isolates them even more, and it reinforces the perpetrator's control.
The source really stresses how important it is to recognize that this type of abuse can happen. What can people do if they think they might be targeted?
The first thing is to document everything. Dates, times, specific incidents, anything unusual. This can be really helpful if they need to get help from the police or from mental health professionals. It's also really important to talk to trusted friends or family, build a support system.
Right, so it's about breaking that isolation and validating their experiences.
Exactly. And, finding a therapist who specializes in trauma or anxiety, that can be invaluable. It can help victims process what they're going through and develop ways to cope.
So a lot of what we've talked about is the victim's experience, but does the source material say anything about the motivations of the people doing this?
Well, the source focuses mostly on the tactics, but it does suggest that the main motivation is control and power. These people, they seem to get satisfaction from manipulating and destabilizing their victims.
It's disturbing, isn't it, that someone would actually enjoy causing so much pain?
It is. It's a reminder that there are people out there who are willing to engage in this type of harmful behavior.
This deep dive has been so informative, but also really heavy, It's clear that gang stalking is this complex and disturbing thing with really devastating consequences for the people targeted.
Yeah, you're right. And I think it's crucial that we raise awareness of these tactics and encourage people to talk about this type of abuse. Knowledge is power. By understanding the methods, we can support those who might be experiencing it.
It's definitely opened my eyes to a world I wasn't aware of. It's a reminder that even in this age of technology and connection, there are still these dark corners where abuse can happen.
Right. And it shows just how important vigilance is, protecting ourselves and supporting those who might be vulnerable to these kinds of attacks.
It's been a lot to take in, this deep dive, but I think it's been so important. Really sheds light on this dark side of human behavior, the lengths people will go to control others.
Yeah, you're right. I think one of the biggest things we can take away from this is recognizing that this type of abuse can even happen. It's not something people talk about much, but as we saw in the source material, it's very real and it's really disturbing.
Yeah, the detail in the source material, that's what really got to me. They don't just describe it vaguely, they lay out specific tactics and strategies, all designed to mess with the victim's head.
Right. And that's what makes it so insidious. It often goes unnoticed, or people just think the victim is paranoid. Their reality is slowly chipped away, so they can't even trust themselves or get help.
This has definitely made me think about a lot of things, like the nature of trust and perception, How much do we rely on our own senses for reality? And what happens when someone intentionally messes with that?
That's a deep question. I think we all need to think about that, especially these days. We're constantly flooded with information. It's hard to know what's real and what's fake. This source material, it focuses on gang stalking, but it's also like a warning about manipulation and gaslighting in general.
Yeah, it reminds us that we need to be critical thinkers, right? Question what we're told and trust our gut when something feels wrong.
Absolutely. And it's important to remember, if you or someone you know is experiencing anything like this, there's help out there. Don't be afraid to reach out to mental health professionals, support groups, even law enforcement.
We'll be sure to include some resources in the show notes for this episode. It's unsettling to know that these things happen, but I really do believe that knowledge is power. By talking about these tactics, we can help people protect themselves and get help if they need it.
I agree. Awareness is the first step to stopping this and helping those who are targeted.
Well, on that note, I think we'll wrap up this deep dive. It's been a tough one, but a really important conversation to have. Thank you for joining us, and remember, you're not alone. There are people out there who want to help.